Hello, everybody. I'm very, very happy to be here with you guys. It's been interesting times, as you all know. And as you know, I promised I would bring a stellar guest today. Unfortunately, I couldn't find anybody. But
His name is Stellar?
yeah, stellar was not available. So, now serious, I'm super, super happy to, to have here in my studio the great Bob Sheppard.
Thank you, OTMARO. It's a pleasure to be here with you, my friend, and I really I'm honored that you asked me. So thank you for.
Yeah, and since I haven't done this for quite a while, I had already forgotten to turn on the talk mics and all that. But now everything is corrected. Talk mics are on. I can hear you.
Yes, sir.
You can hear me. And I would like to say, first of all, that the way that I got to meet this guy, I don't know if he remembers, but a long time ago, one of the first things that I started doing when I arrived in Los Angeles was to play with the great Alex Acuna, and we used to have a band, and we used to contribute with original compositions. Now, I've never felt proud about writing difficult music. Believe me, that's something that it's not intended to be like that. But especially back then, I was younger, and all my tunes were so hard. And I remember one time we were playing a gig, and our main guy, our flute guy, Pedro Stach, I forgot what he had to do. I mean, he couldn't be there at the moment. And Alex said, well, I'm going to have to bring this guy. I mean, this guy just can't sight read just about anything. And I have to admit, I was like, wow, well, you know, some things can be sight read, some others are not that easy, you know. And not only that, I mean, to sight read and to be able to interpret and to give it the energy that it deserves, especially when you have a guy like Alex behind you. I was pretty, you know, like, wow, frightened. And then there walks this guy. Back then he had a big mustache. And man, did he sight read all that stuff like he wrote it.
Do you remember where it was? That'll bring it back.
It was at a place, at a club. Do you know in Van Nuys, they used to play right in Van Nuys Boulevard and Ventura Boulevard, almost. There was this Hamburger Hamlet place for many years. Exactly. So they opened a club there, a restaurant, for a while. There was a little restaurant there. They started having music, and we had that was the gig. Yeah.
That's a lot of brain cells going on.
Yeah, this is 30 years ago, probably.
Wow.
Yeah.
But
So,
your music is it can be very difficult, but it all made sense. That's the thing is when there's difficult music written, and it's sort of for the sake of difficulty. Then
yeah.
But your tunes are very melodic, and they're well prepared, and so you know it's really a lot of that too. So.
Wow, that's good. Well, I'm relieved. With 30 years later, I'm relieved.
But if you didn't tell me, I would have to accept compliment. You didn't say there was any compliments going to happen here, so I'm not prepared for.
Yeah. So since we're gonna, this is the first time that I do this with guests, so I'm gonna try to make the best use out of the time. And but first of all, I would love to ask a question that is been in the back of my mind all this time. And I was explaining to Bob that all, you know, most of these questions, even the random questions that I'm going to be asking later, these are things that I have, that I truly want to know because I go through this. We all have our own, internal conflicts, or I mean, they don't have to be negative. We all have our internal triumphs, and so I created this questionnaire. But this one question that I would like to ask to all the guests as I continue doing this. The first one is, when this pandemic lockdown hits us all, as musicians, I can tell I felt like I was flying, I was soaring, I was doing all this acrobatics in the air, and then all of a sudden, plum, someone caught my wings. That's how it felt. I was completely defeated. So upon hitting the ground, immediately I wanted to have this sense of, no, I'm gonna keep going, like nothing is happening. And I kept going, I kept practicing, and I kept writing stuff. And this is probably for about the first month and a half and the first 2 months, and then shortly after that I really ran out of gas and I started questioning a lot of stuff. And later I found renewed purpose. So my question is, tell me about your experience with this pandemic, with this lockdown, expectation for the future, or or if you at some point lost your focus, or felt like there was no purpose in keep doing anything until things reopen, or if you have learned new tricks, new things that you can use the time to learn. Tell me about it real briefly.
Well, it showed me that how interdependent we are on each other, musicians. I had the same exact experience of going, well, it's going to last a month or two, or then it'll be over. So,
Right.
so I had the same experience of like everything that I had on my calendar being canceled, things I was really looking forward to. All these things I think are we're all experiencing, and which is interesting. Like this pandemic is the sort of a great equalizer, because no matter how busy someone was or how slow you were, all of a sudden we were all slow. We had nothing. So I started asking friends about this topic. It was like the topic that was internal in my own mechanism. Like, why do I pick up the horn? Why do I what I wanted to practice. I wanted to write. I wanted to get into this whole productive thing, and fairly quickly I started saying, well, I just don't have this drive to do it. I was losing, my ambition, and I said, well, what is this? I thought I loved music. I thought it just was internal, but I think it's a very interesting question to ask everybody, because we all have different experience with what music means to us. For me, I realized that I need to play with other musicians. I desperately need that. I need the energy. I need the interaction. And the reason, a big reason, that I pick up the horn and practice and work on music is so I don't suck. So when I don't show up on a gig and I want to sound good.
Yeah.
Right. So the motivation for me was I think it's always been that. Well, of course I love music. Of course it's been my life, and it's been very good to me. But there was always stuff to do, and all whatever gigs were out there, or just rehearsals or things. There was all things to look forward to. Right. There was like,
Yeah.
hey, I got to show up, blah blah blah, and play with these guys. I better get on my horn so I don't suck. So the pandemic sort of brought me down. I was like, well, all right, well, what is this that I'm going to try to do here? And that is a very good question, and I think we're all asking ourselves and talking about that amongst ourselves, and I have asked good friends, and all I could say is that there are good days and there are good weeks maybe, and and sometimes literally very down and depressed about it, because you know, it's the gigs and playing music. It's my raison d'etre. It's my reason. I've always done it from the time I was in 10th, 11th grade. I've had gigs, and this is the first time since then I have no gigs. So anyway, that's, I don't know if that helps or hurts anybody, but I am still loving picking up the horn and trying to, you know, work on intervallic things, and you know, it comes in spurts.
Okay.
It's like I'm not on the horn, you know, for hours a day, and I am inviting some young players that are not afraid to be 6 feet apart to play, and that is my cathartic experience for the week. I usually try to get a bass player and a drummer over, and to play tunes. If I have that, I think I'll be okay on the desert island. You know?
By the way, now since you mentioned it, you know, we are truly practicing social distancing here. We have our masks, you know, ready to talk. We have to take it out. But the piano is making sure that we are at least 8 feet away, and I wouldn't recommend doing it otherwise. Yeah, I asked that question because I have friends that I respect so much that they have had different experiences about this and different reactions.
Yeah.
1 second.
Technical
A lot of
difficulties.
people complain that the volume is very low. I think mainly Bob.
Okay, so
I'll get closer.
Yeah, closer to the talkback.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Yeah, so so I have friends, for instance, that immediately jump on the technological wagon. It took me a while. It took me a while because I'm so challenged with everything that is new, and I basically I thought it was gonna be a shorter lockdown. I was betting on okay, it's gonna come back, but now and I know people that are still like waiting. You know, they just kept on track, just doing what they have always done, and just waiting for when the thing reopens. And so it's interesting to know everybody's approach. And I would like to first say to all our friends, thank you for connecting, and thank you for watching and for participating in this. You can still write your questions, and we will read them later. I cannot, unfortunately, since I'm taking care of all the technical thing, I cannot do everything and read the comments at the same time. But I will read them, and I'll make sure to address whatever the most intriguing questions you might have. But believe me, I'm gonna be asking some interesting stuff or things that are burning in our curiosity somewhere. And to all our friends all over, nossos amigos no Brasil, bem-vindos. Muito obrigado por acompanhar nosso live. Eu sou muito feliz de ter vocês aqui com a gente. Minasan Nihon no tomodachi, minasan yokoso, genki, boku genki. So thank you very much for being here. I hope this is going to be beneficial for everybody. And we're going to play a tune now, okay? We're going to play for a while, and then hopefully we'll start another thread of conversation. Well, that for me that's like waking up, going from 0 to 60 in 0 seconds.
It's so beautiful and easy to play with you. It's so beautiful and easy to play with you.
Oh man, thank you. Well, likewise, you know.
You never know what's going to happen, right?
You never know. You never know. So now I know that my hands have to wake up. Although I cannot blame, believe me, I cannot say that I'm not warmed up.
You could blame the air conditioner.
Yeah, exactly. I cannot say that I'm not warmed up because the air conditioning broke.
I have two questions for you guys.
Okay.
One is Jose Roman asking what keep you and Bob going, how not get blue. And the second question is from Pete Snell from Minneapolis for Bob.
Hey, Pete.
what is our flute setup? Seems like a lot of jazz players prefer Powell.
Oh, we're getting specific about equipment now, are we, Pete?
Okay, okay. I don't know if Katina's voice could be heard. The first one by my friend Jose Roman is how we can keep going and not get blue. Well, I think we already talked a little bit about that when in our opening question. You know, it's like. Especially now, we can feel defeated.
I have a bottle of whiskey. It's in my studio.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
really.
So finding purpose and finding a new, at least from my side, you know, I had to confront the fact that I had to learn all these new things if I want to stay productive, if I want to stay current, if I want to keep a presence in social media or among the musicians. I had to learn all this new stuff, you know, video editing and cameras and audio and all that. And
well, you know, music. It's always been the same for me. Is that music is so infinite. Like, so getting the inspiration is really the important thing. And sometimes I lose that inspiration, and then I'm not sure what to practice. I'm not inspired to practice. So finding things that inspire you then triggers a mechanism, right? So I find when I isolate the world and put on headphones or speakers and try to find something and play along with music. You know, you could simulate playing music by playing along with music that you know, you could put the microphone into you know, the mix and put a little reverb on it, but just sort of dial yourself into the mix of the music and project yourself into the music. And basically you're practicing performing, you're practicing with other people on record, and with a couple of clicks of the mouse, sometimes you just randomly go around and put something on and find it. You know, find it. There's all kinds of ways to challenge yourself easily if you just break out of your normal routine. But by yourself with your horn is okay, and you have to the mechanics and having to play all the things you need to play is one thing, but the music has to be input in like a computer. You have to be reminded of what it is that you're trying to do.
Yeah, that's great. Like I always compared what I do. My walk through life is like finding little stuff under the rocks, you know.
Yeah.
And sometimes the more you do this, you realize that some of those rocks you already checked, you know. So it's harder to find new stuff under that will ignite. And then what I do is, like, if someone might show me like a new, check out this guy, check out this new composition or this, and then I have to admit, I'm not a big listener in terms of I don't play a CD and I don't carry it in my car and I don't, play music in my house. But when something creates an impact, I want to know about this. I want to know. And then I search around. The influences or where he went to school or what is it. And then lately, for instance, I found a set of books that inspired me a lot to work on totally new musical stuff that I hear in these people that I admire, some modern approach to things. So that's what immediately, and Katina knows it because I disappear. All of a sudden, I disappear from her life. I'm always here in the studio trying to get better at that and to understand it, to internalize it. But that's great. Another question is about your flute setup. If you can talk briefly about that.
Briefly, Pete, I have a couple of great flutes, but the one I mainly use lately is a PAL. It's an old PAL from the 70s, and and I have a newer head joint on it. a PAL head joint, an Aramite. So I'm not endorsed by PAL, but that's what I that's what I use. But that's not to say that that's what everyone plays. It's all over the map, obviously.
Yeah. Great. Well, if I may, I'm going to add here on the screen some information that is extremely pertinent. Why? Because all this setup, it takes a lot of work and a lot of resources to do this, and especially to bring Bob here and to talk about all this interesting stuff that is gonna, hopefully, is gonna ignite that craving for more knowledge from the musicians that might be watching, but also the people that are like that are not necessarily musicians. They can get a glimpse of what really goes. What are the mechanics inside of the brain of someone, and I want to encourage you to donate. Any any donation is fine, because you are really getting some quality information here from Bob, and I'll make sure to squeeze some more. But one thing is that when we were playing, for instance, I want to I discovered in all these guests of mine are people that I truly admire and that I've truly really studied. I mean, in a way, from the distance, and these questions that I ask are things that I personally want to know. And then, when we were talking, when we were playing that brief rendition of Impressions by John Coltrane, there's something that jumps immediately to my attention. And then I want to ask Bob to explain it in two different layers of involvement, so to speak. One for the lay people, one for the regular listener, and on a different layer for musicians, that might be wanting to benefit from this. The one thing that I listen when I play with you is that every time you play a solo, that solo has a total connection with the original, and it's not an obvious. Sometimes it's not that obvious, but you are able to navigate to make that connection as clear as possible and depart from it and becoming more abstract, and still the connection is there with the song. So with this, what I want to say is that I've heard many times people say the notes are not important, or you can play any note, and if you play with the right intention. That's a famous quote that is running around. I guess artists sometimes say those kind of things. But when you play a wrong note, you have to have a great intellect, a great knowledge, or a great inspiration to back that wrong note and to make it fit nicely. But for instance, what I like is when I can really know this guy is in control of what he's doing. Because speculation, I can smell speculation. You know what I mean?
Well, thank you. That idea of playing the tune is something that my favorite players, I guess, that I don't care whatever, any instrument. I really appreciate that. I always listened for.
Oh, okay.
Not loud enough?
You might want to give yourself a little more volume there.
How's that now?
Better? It should be better. Yeah, it should be better. Yeah.
Okay. Well, the idea of I always listen for that, and for somehow, no matter what, people, my favorite musicians sort of do that in their own way. They're always in control of. I talk about this a lot with students. You know, these concepts were never talked about when I grew up, or really, I just sort of, how did I learn that stuff? So teaching is beautiful that way. Is that you have to. Well, how do you do that? And so I have to think back of how to teach it. You know, so you know there's a lot of things going on at the same time. And there's an internal form of every tune. In this case, it's a 32-bar tune. But I picked this tune actually to play because it is there's only 2 chords. It's like 2 tonalities. Mm. And if we were to demonstrate some things like, well, how do you keep that together, the integrity of the tune, and how do you get away from the tune but still maintain the integrity of the tune? No, it's like if somebody walked into this room, like in the 3rd chorus, would they know what we're playing? Right? It's like, and by yourself, you should be able to do that. When you're practicing a tune, and I hope people do that play jazz, you should play standards and perform them. You know, perform them, record them, as if you're performing. But if someone walked into the room, they should know, oh yeah, he's playing impressions, he's playing it could happen to you, it could, whatever the tune is, even though they're in the middle of the tune, they should be able to hear that integrity of the tune in what you're playing. So how do you practice that? And that's the interesting thing, and I think it all comes from embellishing the melody. So, if this tune in itself, oops, pardon me, everybody. Right, so that's basically the melody, but a jazz musician would never play it like that. Right, certainly John Coltrane didn't. Every time he played it, it was different. We never want to play the same thing the same way. So using the melody as your, let's say, your grounding, your structure, and play and always leading towards the melody. So first thing is try to embellish that melody. And what are the options? You have like the scale, the Dorian scale, right? Now, what is that stuff, right? Well, you can't teach that, right? That's stuff that I'm playing along with records. Like how does this train moan into a note?
Yeah,
you can
nuance.
talk about it's the nuance, like the air, all that stuff. Well, that's part of it too.
Yeah.
So what could you do with a simple melody, just as far as nuance and expression and dynamics? That's one way to go through the tune over and over again. There's always another way to do it, right? So a lot of students that I have and people trying to play this, they always play the same thing, right? Just like the lead-in, the lead-in notes. Right? So because I have the melody so strongly implanted in my head, I could play these other notes and try to get back to it. Well, at first, that's very uncomfortable for a lot of people. That's okay.
Yeah.
The thing about doing this stuff is you have to make a lot of mistakes. You got to keep trying.
Yeah.
Right? I love that part of it, actually. You just sort of, So you work on small elements of the tune. You can't do it all at one time, right? So you could add, chordal things to it, like the diatonic arpeggios, in that key. In that key. So you might go through the tune just doing that over and over again until it's swinging, until it's in time. So you get a grasp of all the components that you could use on a minor tonality. So that's just briefly, every tune has its own set of challenges, harmonic challenges and
But I in my head, it's like a computer, a Rolodex in my day, and like there's a whole bunch of impressions in there of Train and other people playing it that I'm sort of going back in my brain and trying to remember some of those ideas, and then of course you make them your ideas. But that's the interesting part of this thing. It doesn't come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
It comes out of, it's already in there.
Yeah.
It's already in our ear of what to do. We just have to like break it down into components and practice those components, and those components come together over time to an interesting way that you do it. So it's a very cool topic, just from a point of melody.
Yeah, and and this is something that when I discuss it with my students, I try to be briefly, because it's not about me, it's about you. But since you're talking about playing from the tune, in classical music, my background is from the classical world, and that's a form. It's called theme and variations. So when you're exposed to this, you realize, wow, that's what improvisation should. That would be the starting point of of improvisation, is how to take a theme and add the right levels of embellishment, so that anybody that walks into the room at any given time, they will say he's playing such and such tune. And the indicator for that is very typical. In a gig, you might play tunes that are very similar in harmonic structure. Like I always use this example. And there's this other one. It's almost exactly. It's almost. They are almost counterfacts of each other. So, what would make a jazz player? What is the secret for a jazz player to play a solo for one different than for the other, being the same harmonic structure? Because if you go by licks or by scales, whatever, then the same scales apply to both. So what makes the difference is the melody. It's referring to the original blueprint that the composer is giving you.
Absolutely. There's a feeling to these tunes, that are the Impressions doesn't have lyrics, but there's a lot of these standards that we learn how to play jazz through, these beautiful structures, and they come from songs with lyrics. Yeah. And those lyrics have a sentiment.
Yes,
right.
Totally,
so you have this pretty tune, and the jazz guys always like take this beautiful, sweet tune, and they're killing with it. And not to say that you shouldn't do that or can't do that, but there's a reason why those tunes sound like they do, is because the chords are complementing the lyric. Yeah, yeah. Right. It's this happy, it's
or a little twist of the melody is, it's.
Right. Yeah. So the melody informs like a lot. Yeah. And people forget jazz guys that are studying jazz are consumed with patterns and intervallic things and all kinds of crazy stuff believe me, I love it too, and it's really important to do that as well. But to be able to one thing about getting older is you start realizing that it's not about all that. It's about saying something with the tune, right? So it's cool.
There's a question that I received, actually. I think Katina has something to say.
Yeah, just a few people are still saying that the Bob is very soft.
Wow. Yeah, are you all the way to the top there?
Okay, but I have
I would say. Yeah, I always forget to tell people you should be enjoying this with headphones. You should be because if you listen from the speakers of the computer, you're missing a lot of nuance of the instruments. We're miking this very nicely.
Should we do a little sound check, Katina?
Yeah, I think that's.
I don't know which dial, the master or the channel.
That's fine. I mean, I think. People try to listen with headphones, because all the levels are great here, but this is to be enjoyed with headphones. and I think you're gonna get a much better experience. Another one question that I got from a student days ago. 1 second.
I just
Yeah.
put my headphones. It sounds beautiful.
Yeah, I
People who are watching from the iPhone. Or
yeah, but I just announced that
Yeah.
there's no way to do this
and
both
the
ways.
person who texted me already said that it's much better.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'll repeat exactly what I've said.
yeah, yeah.
I'm a
Yeah.
jazz guy. I can't
Yeah,
do that.
There's no way to please everybody in terms of audio. So the best way I know, the way I would like to enjoy a concert with audio is with the best audio possible, which is with headphones. And there's no way to please someone that is listening directly from an iPhone. Sorry. If we do it, then everybody that is with headphones would be having their heads explode. There's a question that we received from a student of mine days ago. As soon as she knew that you were going to be here, she asked this, is how to keep focused while playing and avoid distractions. And if you get distracted, how do you deal with it?
That's a very good question. And this is, again, with my history of hanging out way too much with musicians, having a beer and talking about that exact question, right? Because that is one of the main problems about playing and performing. I don't care if you're a jazz musician or you're on stage as an actor, or this idea of the internal dialogue that goes in our head, as is in our heads, right? That can really destroy you, because it's like, and so the internal dialogue is a lot of things. Like you're on stage and you're worried about a couple people that you saw in the audience that, oh God, I have to play in front of them, or this is you put a lot of expectation on yourself. Oh, I have a gig and I have to sound good. If I don't sound good, then my world ends, right? So that's a very common sort of thing for performers. It's a common dilemma, and our good friend Kenny Werner actually wrote a book called Effortless Mastery.
That book changed me in a good way.
yeah, and there's a lot of historic books, The Inner Game of Tennis, and all these things that talk about this mechanism. Imagine trying to hit a tennis ball, right? And you're thinking about, oh, I have to get the tennis racket back, I have to swing it, and I have to, you can't think about hitting the tennis ball, or else you're not going to hit it, or else it's going to go in the net. So some of these things that we do that's why we practice, and it's so ingrained and under our fingers and in our ear. But the internal dialogue is something that is very tricky, because you care a lot about sounding good, right? But you put a lot of external expectations on yourself.
Or learning how to turn off that auto-criticism
that too,
at the right time, because you cannot be, when you're practicing, you have to be very self-critical, but not when you're playing.
Right, you're by, oh God, I suck, I'm gonna suck. I'm gonna play on this, but I'm not ready. Those are the kind of challenges that we have. So all I could say is it's really comforting to know that you're among many. Like, we all go through this at some level. Knowing that is very helpful. Nice. Okay, so just know that over time that diminishes, and you try to focus on the moment and the joy of what you're doing, having the opportunity to play music with other people, in front of other people, and you focus on what you do, because you don't have control over anything else. Only have control over what you are doing.
Exactly, and if I may add, if the distraction comes in the form of something that someone else played while you are doing, like a band member plays something that distracts you, that could be the beginning of something wonderful too. You know, if you use it to your advantage. There's never a shortage of inspiration while you are on the bandstand, and that's a question that I get asked many times. You know, when you're playing, for instance, what do you do when you don't have anything to play? So just listen.
Stop playing.
Stop playing and listen. Listen to what's going on, and someone will give you will throw you a rope.
Yeah, well, when we try to do something, that's when we get in trouble. So as soon as I go, oh, there's space here, and I got to fill it up, and I'm going to just play whatever comes out, right? It's like the pre-planning or this trying to fill up the space because you think someone will think that you don't know what you're doing. All right, there's a million of those thoughts that go through our head.
Yeah.
So just know that it's very common. We all go through this. I've always been amazed at people that didn't seem to have that sort of self-editing thing, and then there's other people it frankly destroys them. I've known the most brilliant people that have quit.
Yeah, and I know people that don't have this, and they are extremely arrogant too.
Right. It's a good question, and it's one that musicians don't talk about a lot. I think they should talk about it more. It's like it's like we hide a lot of these things, and I think if we expose it to each other, you'll find that everybody has their own similar problems or realizations about how to deal with that, and that's very comforting.
That's great. That's great. Well, I would like to remind you what he said. The book is written by Kenny Werner. Unfortunately, I cannot generate a title right now as we speak, but Kenny Werner. The book is called Effortless Mastery, and it truly helped me, and I should actually read it again.
Me too. It's been a while.
Because it's one of those books that it gives you ideas, and it gives you a good inspiration about how to phase out all this negative stuff while you are playing. So it's a wonderful book. So I'm gonna remind you of the donations here. If you feel like, I'm sure you are getting a lot of really good information here, but any donation will be welcome and appreciated. And we're gonna play another song, and maybe it's gonna keep creating other topics of conversation. All right.
This is great. Let's play a ballad. How about Body and Soul? Everyone knows that.
Cool. All right. It's great. So you know the song, so you have a reference. Hopefully, if you hear something that tickles your curiosity, then you will have if you know the song, you will know the frame in which it happens. So it's always good to have that. Beautiful, beautiful.
It's about 100 degrees in here.
Yeah.
my readers.
We might have created a new concept in recordings. This
Thank you,
this
Christina.
is
Oh my
sauna.
God.
A merging of sauna and studio. It's not sonic. It's sauna.
The sauna jazz. I don't think it's going to take hold. Actually, I don't think it's popular.
There's a question, huh?
Well, there are two questions, and one I couldn't resist. I had to tell you guys.
Okay.
Susan Marder, who are you wearing? And then second is, I don't know her first name. It says
Aviva.
Diamond. What is your process of learning a new tune? How do you internalize and hear all possible variations and then balance the facility that comes from years of practice with keeping things alive and fresh from the heart?
Oh my God.
That's a whole 5 hours there.
Well, unfortunately, yeah. I mean, Katina was reading the question, but she's not in the mic. So if you couldn't hear Bob, probably you didn't hear what Katina just said. Someone is our good friend Susan Meyer.
Hi, Susan.
Yes,
I miss
Susan.
you.
Susan is asking, what are we wearing? Who are we wearing? Well, we have our own private. I have my own private designer, so I have a vow of secrecy when it comes to this because it's rather exclusive. But maybe Bob wants to.
It's vintage. It's been in my closet for a long time. It's nice not to put a T-shirt on, and I have to go out and actually play it. Button-down shirt.
And another question, very, very interesting, but it has to maybe a little bit to do with what we were talking about, about the process of playing from the tune and then learning the tools to expand it and compress it and to do all this creative stuff. Is exactly that. It's like, what is the process for learning a new tune and applying the tools, but keeping always a fresh experience from the heart.
Well, you know, it doesn't come from the heart. Eventually, the heart kicks in, but this tone, you know, this melody. If you listen to, 10, 15, 20 recordings, you will find that it is interpreted in every which way. So I think if you're trying to learn a tune, you should listen to that tune sung, performed by many people to get basically the feeling and the premise of that tune. Trying to do what you hear is for me really important. Like when I was young, trying to figure out how to play a tune, I'll remember this time in the car with my father, and on the radio when I was 14 years old, or there were instrumental hits on AM radio, and there was a hit of the Johnny Mandel tune, "The Shadow of Your Smile." Beautiful song, yeah. Right? And it was played by Boots Randolph. Boots Randolph was the famous yakety saxophone player, who was a great saxophone player. But he had a hit on this beautiful ballad, right? And I'm trying to learn how to play the saxophone, and he's going. Right, it's just like we call it subtone, yeah. Foofy. We call it foofy tenor, yeah. Right? And I'm going, wow, what is that sound? How does he do that? Right? And I didn't. No one could tell me how to do that. I had to go home and get the record and play and experiment with the saxophone and the reed and how to loosen my embouchure and how to use the air. To be able to do that, that taught me immense. So my interest in of pursuing something that inspired me, sound-wise, taught me how to play the saxophone. Because I realized if I could do that softly, then all the other stuff was easier. Yeah. So these things come in very interesting ways. Like, and your ear always guides you to learn something, and it doesn't matter when you learn it. Yeah. Right? It doesn't. There's no curriculum. There's no you have to do this first and this first and this first and this first. No, it's all about inspiration and you figuring it out. Because I hate to tell everybody that's studying jazz out there that most of it cannot be taught.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
It cannot be taught. The most important things about it cannot be taught. There's a lot of stuff that's great.
We can make sure to show and demonstrate the toolbox, how to use each tool, but ultimately you are the ones that are going to create whatever craft piece, art piece with it, you know.
Yeah, from the sounds, from the music, then you go, what is that? Now, eventually you figure out, well, what scale it is, what the harmony does, what you could do on that stuff. But I think if you ask 100 of the great jazz musicians, improvisers they would have 100 different answers about the same question, which is the most beautiful part of the music, I think.
Yeah, one thing that I noticed, you know, and thanks God that you went through this process, because and this is something that I bring very seldom. I bring this up because now I am outnumbered, because I'm also in the old category, in the old demographics. But there's a sense of right now of immediacy that the places like YouTube, Spotify, right now you can access any tune, any version immediately, and most the newer generation, I feel that they're getting very much into trends, and they get some of the information already pretty much chewed up and digested. There's 1,000 tutorials, 1,000 experts on social media. So the process that you went through of discovering things and trying to figure them out, most people are not going through this. And I understand that there's a lot of, every time they are younger, these talents are younger and younger because the information is already out there. But sometimes I miss that sound that comes by when you own something, because you discover it and you chew it yourself, and you assimilate it in your own words, you know.
Well, it's first of all, the genie is out of the bottle. We can't go back to that, because how most of us, I know you did, and all my friends and my age group, we learned on the gig. Literally, there were so many gigs. There was no other way to get the music at a party, at a bar. So we all had opportunities to go out and try to play the music in a band of some sort, and we get our ass kicked. And then you go, man, I got to go home and learn how to do that. And then you would get the records, and you would spend a lot of time with a record that's like, man, I got to figure out how to do this style. I don't want to go back to the gig and suck. So there was a circular process where the gig was school. That was really the process. And are we okay? I mean, you hearing me?
Yeah, because
okay.
Now I think it's now too hot. But yeah, but it's okay. I'm trying to control it here.
I'll back off a little bit.
Yeah.
But anyway, so it is very different, and so the experience of having to actually do it, and you just made a lot of mistakes. You just did, and then you would go home and you would get that music. Not to say that you weren't learning things from a teacher, or maybe there was very little jazz education at school, so this is the way the music was handed down. This is how everybody learned, right? And we talk about it and say, "What do you do when you're on a C7? What is that sound that you're doing on a C7?" People talked about it all the time, but it wasn't quantified into pedagogy at that time. So
codified,
and I think it's really interesting to try to simulate that process, because it is a very important process for young people to it's not just getting an A from your teacher or theory course. It's like there's all this time that needs to be spent trying to figure out by yourself, because everyone learns differently. So that's the fun part for me, is like figuring out how somebody learns.
Yeah,
They might have great ears and no harmony,
and vice versa.
Left brain, right brain, whatever
Yeah,
you want to
yeah.
say about it. So that's fun for me to try to get into somebody's way they hear and learn. And
Wonderful.
stuff. Yeah.
I'm glad to inform that here in the studio is about 120 degrees, and this guy is being so gracious to stay with us. We are with Bob Sheppard. A nuestros amigos en Brasil, no Brasil, bem-vindos. Hoje temos nosso amigo Bob Sheppard. Eu estou falando algumas coisas que eu sempre quis saber e estou perguntando. Nosso convidado de honor hoje. Nuestros amigos también, tenemos amigos, estoy seguro, de Argentina que están conectados. Gracias por estar con nosotros. Y yo quisiera, I would like to, there's a little surprise here because not everything should be so comfortable for the guest. There's a questionnaire of 52 random questions.
52.
There's 52 random questions, and that's what I have in front of me here. And I figure out a way to really do this random because I don't want people to go to their favorite number, or I don't want them to spell their date of birth and then go some mathematical subtraction that they will. I want it to be really random. So next to you there's a deck of cards. Give it a little quick shuffle. Make sure that they are all.
I knew there was a reason for these cards.
Yeah, you can shuffle them and make sure that they're all different and they're in different.
If I try to really shuffle, these will be all over the floor. So
Okay, all right, great.
Okay.
So turn them on so you, like face down so you don't see, and then
Yeah.
pick 3 of those from different places. All right.
This is like Jeopardy, jazz Jeopardy.
Yeah, just Iron Chef. All right, wonderful.
All right.
Okay, so tell me the first card.
That's a 4 of spades if I ever saw one.
4 spades. 4 spades. That's number 17. Wow, you nailed this one. I didn't know you were going to pick this, but this is a topic that I know you're very passionate.
Does everybody know that OTMARO is an expert magician? That's why he always includes magic in his performances. He is, literally.
So, the question number 17, 4 of spades, is would you be able to talk about, I know you're a foodie. You love, we've done tours together,
yes.
and you're always taking photos of food and you are asking for the recipes and stuff. Tell me about very unexpected exotic foods that you've had that you've been pretty much in the spot, or an unexpected cultural shock experience.
Oh, exotic food. Well, I would have to, that's really difficult because I've had so much interesting food over the years in different places. But I think going to China,
Yeah,
was different
flavors,
different stuff. That there was some stuff that I'll try anything. I'm like that guy on.
Yeah,
Andrew. There's a guy that eats like exotic food.
Exotic food.
I usually try anything.
Yeah, me too.
Fried grasshoppers or something.
Me too.
I'll do it.
Yeah, me too.
But there was some stuff that that was probably I just couldn't identify it, and so there were some experiences like that over the years. There's probably quite a few of those, but they usually happen in Asia.
In Asia.
Most of Western.
Yeah, the reason why I ask, and these are all questions that I from my own experience too, because people imagine, sometimes they imagine that when we're traveling that we all have like a, like a menu that we can choose from all the time, like, you know, and most of the times we are traveling together and we have to eat whatever is available at the moment. And sometimes we don't control this, you know, and so that's one of the reasons. I've been in situations where I've been served stuff that anybody would faint just by looking at it, and I've had like, man, I'm so hungry, I'm just gonna go for it, and boom.
I remember one of the first times I went to Japan, I was dying for like a breakfast tasting thing, you know, and there was this shop at the donuts. They had like powdered donuts, and I bit into this powdered donut, and it was it was natto, which is bean fermented bean, and it was like, oh my, you know, that it was, but then I learned to like that over the years, you know. So
well, that's good. Me too. Let's see, card number 2. Second card. Let's say.
Oh, card number 2.
Card number 2.
All right, drum roll, please. 3 of diamonds.
3 of diamonds. 3 of diamonds. That's 29. Oh, well, wow, funny.
Another food question?
No, but I was just asking. I unknowingly asked you this when we were at the table earlier. Again, from my own questions that I have from my own life experience, you know, did your parents fully approve and support your artistic endeavors?
Oh, that's a good question. You know, my father was a saxophone clarinet player, sort of we call a weekend player. You know, he wanted to become a professional, but back then there was the war and all kinds of things happened. He couldn't. Then he had a family and blah blah blah. So. And he was basically self-taught. So I wanted to play drums, but he brought home a clarinet when I was 9 or 10 years old, and that started me on this path. And so he wanted me to take lessons with a real teacher. He didn't want to teach me. And went to this school right near us, that a little store that had Italian owned, and there was all accordions and all clarinets, right? It was very popular instrument. So
accordions already gives it this kind of like a.
But he always asked me, did you practice? Did you practice today? Did you practice today? So
he knew the discipline involved in the thing.
The discipline, and he knew that it was good for me and wanted me to be a great. And it really, I started doing great things in school, and you know, first chair clarinet and orchestra, but all kinds of stuff. But when it really came down time to go to college, no, you're going to be a doctor. You're going to be a dentist.
Yeah.
Right? And really that they wanted me to be okay.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's a true concern, you know.
Yeah, so I did. I went to pre-med, you know, sort of courses, and basically flunked out. I used to come home and practice along with Cannonball and Train, and I didn't study. So then I said, okay, what am I doing? I'm gonna go into music. So
nice. Okay, let's read number 3.
Oh, number 3.
Question number 3. We're running out of time.
Out of time. 8 hearts.
8 of hearts. Let me see. 8 of hearts. Okay. This is an easy one. Man, you didn't get, I mean, I have some really profound
I'm glad.
questions, but this is not one of them.
That's my favorite color.
This number 8 is, what is your favorite if you have a favorite international destination when you're touring, that you're always looking forward to go to this place, and why?
I love going to Japan.
Me too.
It's one of my favorite places to go, and or Italy as well. But Japan, do you feel that way?
Yes.
The Japanese audiences, they just love it.
Extremely supportive.
And I love the culture. And I love the food, and everything is like clockwork.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah.
There's something nice to be on the road when someone says something's going to happen, you're going to get picked up at a certain time. This is like there's something very, very comforting about that. It's like if you go to Italy, which is a whole beautiful experience as well.
It's a different vibe.
You
it's
could
a different
be
vibe,
eating dinner at 9:30 and then having to play a gig
they're
at
the jazz.
11:30
They're very jazz oriented,
which I love as well.
Very
anyway.
jazz and unscripted. Like one thing about Japan is like if I made like really short, when you go to Japan and you do a sound check, and this everybody will be able to understand this because even the non-musicians, when you go through the sound check, it's always a drag. There's so many things that can go wrong, but in Japan there's a guy that is assigned to your side of the stage, and everybody pretty much has a guy that is just there looking at your every move during the sound check. And I remember not only everything is set up exactly as I told them, but if anything gets moved in the process of playing or whatever, the next night it's gonna be at the right place where I need it. But then they asked me after the first concert. They asked me, "What would you like to drink?" I said, "Oh, give me a beer." That's all it takes. The next night, after the concert, there's gonna be a guy with a beer next to the
I know.
That beer is waiting for me.
It's an alternative reality. It's beautiful.
It's pretty incredible. Well, we're running out of time. We're gonna play one more tune, okay? And let's play we can play a blues, maybe.
Das Blues.
Das Blues, okay?
No swinging.
And after this, I have just one more question for me that I just had to ask. But let's play the blues first, okay?
Sure.
All right. Nice, nice. Wow, that was some other kind of blues. Actually, the title is
some other blues.
Yeah, that's extended.
John Coltrane.
Yeah,
blues.
John Coltrane blues with a extended harmonic progression. You know, more a little extra layer of fat. And I have to say that there's something with extra layers waiting for us in just a few minutes. I cooked my ass off. I cooked this lasagna, and we're going to be attacking very soon all layers of fat of that lasagna.
I can't wait. OTMARO is a great cook. I know that.
But listen, I was going through your credits because I know, of course, people that you have worked, and you know, the list is super long. Billy Childs, Chick Corea, Leonard Cohen, Freddie Hubbard, of course, Steely Dan. I saw your name in one of my favorite. I think it was one of the live albums that you are, and with Steely Dan and with Mike Stern. I have wonderful story. I have a great story about Mike Stern, but since I'm not the guest on anybody's interview, I'm gonna save that for when someone calls me to be the guest, because I have a great story about Mike Stern. Randy Brecker, Scott Henderson, Lyle Mays, Peter Erskine, John Beasley, Bob Minzer, Johnny Mitchell. I mean, the list goes on and on. And then, you know, I'm checking this, and then you have played with three of my all-time, not only favorite pianists, but direct influences: Chick, Lyle, and Billy Childs. And so I want to ask you. They are all very strong artists in their own right, with a very strong voice, artistic voice, and I bet very different processes in terms of how to rehearse, how to get their music, how to get the music they want from their musicians. So what would you be able to say about this, about working with Chick, Lyle, and Billy Childs? I know Billy Childs, for instance, his level of composition is so complex. That's the guy that I go to every time I feel like I write, my music is all very, very hard, very hard, very hard. Then I listen to Billy Childs' music, and I feel better. Because, I mean, he is so rich, you know, and he's a guy that is absolutely uncompromised.
Well, if Billy was here, I don't, maybe he's even listening, but he would tell you that the same people
yeah,
are
but
very much.
I love that element of you know, he's uncompromised. He just does what he needs to do.
Yes, he's very strong in his conviction.
Compositionally. So what was the process of playing? What was the big difference of playing with Chick in rehearsal, or with Lyle, or with Billy?
Well, I think that their personalities and their what they expect is partly the reason that I was probably there, because I think I didn't know this, but over the years I know that I'm able to sort of like get dropped in like SEAL Team 6 and figure out the situation, you know, like what's needed. With Billy's music was very detailed. I know how to play soprano. He liked my soprano playing, and I play the flute. And there's a lot of alto and soprano and flute, and it required, you know, some classical approach. And yet when it came to playing the jazz, you really had to sort of interpret his music. So one of the luckiest moments was when I met Billy way back at a club called come back in. I don't know if you remember.
I know the name.
But because of Billy, it opened up many opportunities. But he's very open. But there's certain things he wants it to be right. You know, he's very meticulous about having his music right, and as he should be. You know, a guy like Chick was more not so hands-on. He just knew that you were able to do it, and just
you have your space.
He really wanted you to do your thing, and if there was something that he wanted to talk about, he would. But there wasn't a lot of talking about the music. It's just sort of, he knew how to pick the right guys in the band, and it sort of happened.
Yeah.
So and with Lyle was that was really they were all very intimidating to play because they're so monstrous players. Like yourself, playing with you was no easy task either. Now, you really every gig brings its own set of challenges, but the personalities, are very different. You know, like Lyle's music was very non-specific. It was just triads.
More in the moment.
When you listen to Lyle play, it's like it sounds like the most complex. But basically, it was a melody and some very basic chords. I
never knew him. I never knew him personally, but I always had that impression that he was more like in the moment, kind of like kind of player.
Yeah.
I think there's a last question.
Last question.
Lovely April Williams is asking, do you think there is a future for next generation in music business? What is the best advice you can give to high school and college graduates who develop their school in their
well, I'm gonna have to say that again because people are not listening to you.
No, I think they listen and they're saying now that Bob is too loud. So Bob, if you want to just
too loud.
if you want to
that's not the first time I've heard that comment. Sorry, everybody.
So our good friend April Williams was asking, and this is one of the questions that I had in my questionnaire too. If you see a clear future in music business with all this new reshuffling of the deck of life, and if what would be the best advice you can give to young players, the young generation that are starting into this new plan?
Well, it's a question that is sort of hanging out there for everybody that teaches young players, and we have the same criteria about you have to learn how to play your instrument, and you have to develop all the same skills to be able to do whatever you want to do. So that all that stuff still exists. But our experience with learning how to play in gigs could be, for all intents and purposes, finished. Going on tours for weeks or months at a time. Just these constant sort of gigs. There will be a lot to do, but it will be very different. So I try to tell young people to figure out how to create something that's theirs.
Yeah.
Right. And I wish I had the skills, Pro Tools skills and Logic skills and video skills, because obviously this is something that's here to stay.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting at home. I wish I could do all these creative things because I know about music, but the technology is something that now a young person really has to get a handle on.
Yeah.
I think it would help them.
It is so second nature for the new generation.
Yeah.
Believe me. I mean, my daughter is an artist, and she saw me getting all worked up and so the agony of what was going through our minds when this whole thing happened, and immediately she opened her own shop online for her art pieces, and immediately she went on Instagram and did her thing, and she created a line of product. Kids are like these are the tools that they're natural. they are born naturally
Yeah.
into this new. But you're right, and I think probably this new thing is creating. For a long time, we were at the mercy of club owners, right? And having to kiss a lot of ass.
Record companies as well.
Yeah,
It's just like, yeah.
record companies kiss a lot of ass to get a gig at a club, whatever. And with few exceptions, that has been the story of I think most of us. You know, you wanted to get a gig here. I mean, you had to call and call and call and call, and they pretend, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Yeah. So I think this is the beginning of new kinds of relationships, because now, for instance, there's new software that is getting implemented and is developed to allow musicians to play live remotely. So they are eliminating the delay, the intrinsic delay of the transmission.
Yeah.
So there are people that are working on this. So that's going to be the new thing, and then our relationship will be with those developers. I heard that there are people that are creating true augmented, I don't know if I'm saying the right term, but augmented reality concerts in which the musicians have an avatar created or a video, and they are in the screen, you know, like pretty much what you see in Zoom, in this video calls where you see all these things, but created in a way aesthetically where they look like they are on a stage or whatever. Probably that's the future for until.
Well, the young people will create their own business paradigm. They have to.
Yeah.
I mean, we can't see it because we are used to something different, right? Yeah. But that's the way it works. I mean, it always worked that way. That people will figure out a way to perform together. I hope that, you know, I hate this phrase, the new normal. I refuse to I hate it, because I want people to play together and to go out and enjoy themselves and hear music live, because there's nothing that replaces that, and it will happen. So maybe people will be so aching to be together and listen to music that there'll be this resurgence in live music, and I'm hoping towards that. But there's no doubt that this time is creating a lot of other demands on musicians to figure out how to continue to go forward, because we got to play. People need music, even though, you know, the problem is trying to figure out how to make money, to monetize. All
of
this
course,
stuff,
that's
you know.
one thing we have not talked about. Oh, well, talking about money, there you have it. Boom. Yes. Donations. So hopefully this has been a pretty informative encounter here for everybody. I know it has been for me, and I would like to thank Bob for coming all the way. I live quite far. I live in
I would have come without the lasagna.
Well, tell the truth. Come on.
Anywhere to play with you, man.
I know quite far, so I know that it means to me that he went all the way. He came all the way, and to really share, open his heart and open his mind, and really allowing us to get a glimpse.
My pleasure.
And
my pleasure.
If it was as informative to you as it was for me, please donate, and so I can keep this series happening every Saturday. And our next guest next Saturday will be the great Larry Coons. That's someone that I also started playing with a long time ago.
He was the best man at my wedding.
Yes, I know. I'm starting this series with a very, very interesting circle. It's all people that have been around us. Derek is going to be our third.
Best.
Yeah. So next week is going to be the great Larry Coons, one of my favorite guitar players ever, with that total personal voice in the instrument, which is really hard to come across nowadays. He truly has his own voice and his own set of aesthetics, and I know that what he has to say will be enriching our lives as artists, as creators. So thank you very much. In Japan, 僕の友達、どうもありがとうございました。And to our friends in Brazil, obrigado por assistir ao nosso live. A gente continua, a gente se vê já logo próximo sábado. Okay, thank you so much. I'll be seeing you soon.
Thank you, OTMARO.
All right, bye bye.